Well, President Musveveni has made a lengthy communication about the Balaalo issue in northern Uganda. He said, fellow Ugandans, especially the Bazukulu, greetings. My social media manager has drawn my attention to the lies and distortions on the social media about the issue of the Balaalo in northern Uganda, northwestern and eastern Uganda. The mistakes by the Balaalo in those areas are the following. So the president went ahead to take people through the mistakes of the Balaalo in those areas. Well, he said cattle or other livestock grazing other people's crops. Is that part of patriotism of a united Uganda? Is that the part of freedom movement of Ugandans within Uganda? The second thing that he brought out is livestock eating people's crops, which comes from introducing cattle in an area where there is no good barbed wires or even chain links to deal with the goats. The third thing is, even those who may have fence, they may not have permanent water sources on the farm, bought or rented. Hence, in the dry season, they move out to look for water, and hence people eating people's crops. You know, there's a lot of local language. The fourth thing that the president pointed out is then there is fencing, blocking people's routes to the Nile River or other public facilities. The fifth thing is the issue of non-Acholis or northerners legally owning land in the north comes in last. It is the one that should involve the lawyers. Which land did you, the Mulalo, buy or rent? Was it communal land fraudulently sold or rented by a few people? Or was it private land? The legality of the land ownership, however, is not the immediate irritant. Whether you legally bought or rented the land, you have no right to Kwoneseza people, into bracket, your livestock grazing on people's crops. Nor do you have the right to block people's access routes. Regarding the Kwanesa, that is why removing the cattle and other livestock that come from outside that area, from the area, is appropriate, so that the issue of legal ownership can be settled peacefully. The non-Acholi or non-northerners who do crop agriculture in the area do not generate the same outcry. Why? They do not onesa. Crops do not corner other crops. The president has included a lot of local languages. I don't know whether it's from Banyankole or Baganda, but definitely from the Bantu origin. The second thing that the president pointed out is this patriotic Balaalo that love Uganda so much that they move around in these orderly ways have invaded government ranches. This patriotic action stops the government from doing its planned projects there, such as cattle breeding. It also instigates the locals to ask the question, if the government does not need the ranches, why do they not allow us to also settle in them? The seventh thing that the president pointed out is, did this Balaalo get legal cattle movement, that is the cattle movement permit, in the first place? This is Abarua Yakafuruka, some kind of language, or the movement permit in a simple language. These givers of these permits should always ensure that there are no problems, diseases, ownership, etc., where the cattle are coming from, and no problems where the cattle are going. That is disease, space, Kwanesa, potential, etc. If the permits were legally given, why was the scarcity of water, the lack of fencing, the Kwanesa, etc., not checked? The eighth thing that the president pointed out is, did they get cattle movement permits into the government ranches? Therefore, our great freedom fighter, Andrew Mwenda, should not misdirect his efforts about my executive orders, condoning tribal chauvinism that frowns at Ugandans migrating legally to other parts or other areas. I know of a Munyoro woman, a Dieri, who is a big farmer in Nwaya growing fruits. She is very much loved from what I saw by the locals. The resentment by the locals and my executive orders are not about the legal and rational actors. They are both directed at the illegal and the irrational ones. The ninth thing that the president said is, Northerners also Kone one another, that is livestock eating crops. However, I hear that for them, they have their local practices, which are also common in other areas, where you could shiver or tying the offending cow until the owner comes to redeem it and pays a fine. However, apparently, these justice measures cannot be followed by some of the arrogant Balaalo who will come with their armed relatives from the army, and therefore these simple justice practices cannot apply to such powerful people. That is why they need the executive order of the president of Uganda, signed Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. So President Museveni has told Andrew Mwenda to stop misinterpreting his executive order. That is all from the president as written. Thank you.